Hello everyone, my name is Braden, this is Airless Quill 9, and today we have a video on all 16 of the backgrounds. Now I've previously had a video just where we discussed all 16 backgrounds that were going to appear. However, in this video I have all the details on every single background, so we're gonna take a in-depth look at these backgrounds, and I'll give you my thoughts on each of them. So, first off to know, backgrounds have changed significantly in the 2024 Player's Handbook. In 2014, backgrounds just had some flavorful text, provided some skill proficiencies, perhaps some tool and language proficiencies, but they are really just fluff for your characters. In 2024, backgrounds play a much more substantial role in your character. Backgrounds provide a list of ability scores that you can increase for your characters. They provide a starter feat called an origin feat that you can get. And they also provide a tool proficiency and equipment or gold that your character can have upon character creation. So let's take a look at the first background that appears, and this will be the Acolyte background. So as you can see here, the ability scores that you can increase with this background are Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. And you actually get to choose. You can place 2 in one ability score, or 1 in another, or 1 in all 3 ability scores. So you have a little bit of versatility there. However, there are no rules for modifying backgrounds at this point. That will be something that is included in the Dungeon Master's Guide that will release later this year in November. So keep an eye out for that. So for the Acolyte background, the ability score increases that you have are Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. The feat that you get is Magic Initiate, specifically the Cleric spell list. And as you can see, Chapter 5 is where these feats are located in the Player's Handbook, if you have that on hand. The skill proficiencies that you get as part of this background are Insight and Religion. Your tool proficiency is Calligrapher Supplies. And then for equipment, you either get to choose A or B. B is always just gold, just a gold piece value. In this case, it's 50 gold pieces. I think for all cases, it's 50. But for equipment, you choose A or B. A is Calligrapher Supplies, a book that has prayers in it, holy symbol, parchment, 10 sheets of it, robe, and 8 gold pieces. Or, as I said, you can choose B and just get 50 gold pieces and buy your own equipment, which is an option. And then the flavor text here says you devoted yourself to service in a temple, either nestled in a town or secluded in a sacred grove. There you performed rites in honor of a god or pantheon. You served under a priest and studied religion. Thanks to your priest's instruction and your own devotion, you also learned how to channel a modicum of divine power in service to your place of worship and the people who prayed there. So, really, all this flavor text is for is to give you ideas for how you became a member of your background. So these all have these flavor texts here, but this is the full breakdown for the Acolyte here. Next, we have the Artisan. The Artisan, you can see here, you began mopping floors and scrubbing counters in an artisan's workshop for a few coppers per day as soon as you were strong enough to carry a bucket. When you were old enough to apprentice, you learned to create basic crafts of your own, as well as how to sweet-talk the occasional demanding customer. Your trade has also given you a keen eye for detail. The ability scores that Artisan grants you are Strength, Dexterity, and Intelligence. The feat that you gain is Crafter. Your skill proficiencies, Insight and Persuasion. Tool proficiency, you choose one kind of Artisan tool. Those are present in Chapter 6. And then for the equipment, you choose A or B. A is Artisan tools, the same. You gain an Artisan tool the same as the one that you chose your proficiency for. 2 pouches, traveler's clothes, 32 gold pieces, or you can just take 50 gold pieces and buy your own equipment. All right. So that's the full breakdown of the Artisan. Next, we have the Charlatan. Once you were old enough to order an ale, you soon had a favorite stool in every tavern within 10 miles of where you were born. As you traveled the circuit from public house to watering hole, you learned to prey on unfortunates who were in the market for a comforting lie or two, perhaps a sham potion or forged ancestry records. The details on the Charlatan here. We see ability scores you get are Dexterity, Constitution, and Charisma. Feat is Skilled. Skill proficiencies, Deception, and Sleight of Hand. Tool proficiency, Forgery Kit. Equipment, choose A or B. A is Forgery Kit. Costume, Fine Clothes, 15 gold pieces, or B, 50 gold pieces. And really, I should go into which classes these would be really good for. Acolyte is going to be especially good for wizards, sorcerers, possibly. You could even go with a warlock here, or a cleric, or a druid. Just getting any cleric spells on hand is pretty significant. And those ability scores will work well for any of those classes. For Artisan though, the ability scores presented here would be really good for fighters. Also you could pull off a barbarian, I suppose, with strength and dex. A rogue would be pretty decent here with dex and intelligence. Um, you could also technically go a wizard with intelligence and dexterity. So there are options here for you to choose as well. Charlatan, dex, constitution, and charisma. You could do this would be good for a rogue, sorcerer, warlock would be decent here as well. You could also potentially pull off, if you were just worrying about AC, you could pull off a Charlatan Barbarian. You just wouldn't have the highest strength, potentially. Yeah, there are some decent options there. Alright, the next background that we're going to look at is criminal. You eke out a living in dark alleyways, cutting purses or burgled shops. Perhaps you were part of a small gang of like-minded wrongdoers who looked out for each other, or maybe you were a lone wolf fending for yourself against a local thieves guild and more fearsome lawbreakers. So the criminal things that they get, ability scores, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, feat, alert, skill proficiencies are sleight of hand and stealth. Tool proficiencies, thieves tools. And then equipment, you choose A or B. A is 2 daggers, thieves tools, crowbar, 2 pouches, traveler's clothes, 16 gold pieces. Or B is 50 gold pieces. Some really good classes for the criminal. Potentially, you could go with a rogue. You could also technically go a wizard. Either boost your intelligence and then boost either your dexterity or your constitution with that. You could also go a dex-based fighter here. That would be decent. The alert feat will work pretty well for basically any class. So you have a lot of variety there. I'm looking mostly at ability scores though that would work for specific classes. But yeah, you get some good things out of that. The next background, as you can see here, is the Entertainer. You spent much of your youth following roving fairs and carnivals, performing odd jobs for musicians and acrobats in exchange for lessons. You may have learned how to walk a tightrope, how to play a lute in a distinct style, or how to recite poetry with impeccable diction. To this day, you thrive on applause and long for the stage. The ability scores that you get here are Strength, Dexterity, and Charisma. The feat you get is Musician. Um, Skill proficiencies, Acrobatics, and Performance. Tool proficiency, one kind of musical instrument, which are listed in Chapter 6. And then the equipment you get, choose A or B. A's musical instrument, same as above that you chose. 2 costumes, a mirror, perfume, traveler's clothes, and 11 gold pieces. Or B, 50 gold pieces. I didn't mention back here as well. Charlatan would also be a really good bard. And bard would also be a good pick for entertainer. I can also see here you could you could potentially play a rogue because of the dexterity increase. You could play a sorcerer or a warlock as well. You could play a fighter entertainer as well, which is interesting. Or even a paladin. Paladin would be a good choice there. And actually paladin could be a good choice for charlatan. Yeah. And with the musician feat is also pretty good. We will go into the origin feats in a separate video that will probably release this Friday. So the farmer background is interesting. You grew up close to the land, years tending animals and cultivating the earth rewarded you with patience and good health. You have a keen appreciation for nature's bounty alongside a healthy respect for nature's wrath. Farmer is pretty interesting. The ability scores you get are Strength, Constitution, and Wisdom. The feat you gain is Tough. The skill proficiencies are Animal Handling and Nature. Tool proficiency is Carpenter's Tools. And then the equipment you get, choose A or B. A is a sickle, Carpenter's Tools, Healer's Kit, Iron Pot, Shovel, Traveler's Clothes, and 30 gold pieces. And then B is 50 gold pieces. Interestingly enough, Farmer is the only background in the 2024 Player's Handbook that has the tough feat assigned to it. So this would be really good on your barbarians, your fighters. With the wisdom increase, I would even say druid would be good. You could potentially go monk for the wisdom increase, and I would put the other one in a constitution since dex is an option. You could also potentially fighter, barbarian, druid, and even a monk would be a good option here. That tough feat is really what helps you out there. So extra 2 hit points per character level. Pretty decent starting feat. So let's see here. Guard. The guard background says your feet ache when you remember the countless hours you spend at your post in the tower. You were training to keep one eye looking outside the wall, watching for marauders sweeping from the nearby forest, and your other eye looking inside the wall, searching for cut purses and troublemakers. As ability scores, the guard gets strength, intelligence, and wisdom. The feat they get is alert, which is really good. Skill proficiencies, athletics, and perception. Tool proficiency, choose one kind of gaming set, which are in Chapter 6. And equipment, choose A or B. A is a spear, light crossbow, 20 bolts. Gaming set, the one that you chose for your tool proficiency. Hooded lantern, manacles, quiver, traverse clothes, and 12 gold pieces. Or B, take 50 gold pieces. Guard would be really good as a fighter. I could also see you potentially playing a druid guard. Put your boosts in wisdom or intelligence, or even wisdom and strength if you're playing like a warden uh, druid. You could also potentially here with the strength and intelligence. Um, there are probably other options. You could potentially do a paladin though. I wouldn't just because there isn't a charisma boost. And charisma is kind of important for you as a paladin. Um, yeah, guard has some interesting things going, especially the alert feat. But yeah, this is a decent background choice here. hmm Actually, guard would also potentially be a good wizard option. You could go intelligence and wisdom increase. Or if you wanted a little bit of strength as a wizard, you could put a point or two into strength. The guide background. This one will be pretty good. Guide. You came of age outdoors, far from settled lands. Your home was anywhere you chose to spread your bedroll. There are wonders in the wilderness, strange monsters, pristine forests and streams, overgrown ruins of great halls once trod by giants, and you learned to fend for yourself as you explored them. From time to time, you guided friendly nature priests who instructed you in the fundamentals of channeling the magic of the wild. So for ability scores, the guide gets dexterity, constitution, wisdom. Feat is magic initiate druid. Skill proficiencies, stealth and survival. Tool proficiency, cartographer's tools. Equipment, choose A or B. A is short bow, 20 arrows. Cartographer's tools. Bedroll, quiver, tent, traveler's clothes. 3 gold pieces, or B is 50 gold pieces. The guide would make a really good druid or a monk. A ranger would be a good option here. You could also potentially do a barbarian here with some better defenses. Though magic's not going to be great on a barbarian, so you might not want to do that. With dexterity and constitution, you could also potentially do a rogue here. Or trying to think, dexterity and constitution are really good ability scores. You could almost go with any class. With the guide. The wisdom is the floating one here, and also I didn't consider here. Guard would be good for ranger as well. If you're going a strength based ranger, and also farmer would be good for ranger potentially too. Entertainer could also be good for ranger if you just wanted to give the boost to strength and dexterity. And yeah, I forgot ranger was an option for some reason. That's funny. But yeah, that is the guide. The guide is gonna be pretty decent. Also consider magic initiate. You could also pick up the new Shillelagh cantrip, or at least the updated version that is present here, and that could be pretty decent. You can also pick up a healing spell as a druid as well, or any decent first level druid spell. So yeah, there are some really good options here for the guide. You really probably couldn't go wrong with any background personally. Hermit. For the hermit, it says you spent your early years secluded in a hut or monastery located well beyond the outskirts of the nearest settlement. In those days, your only companions were the creatures of the forest and those who would occasionally visit to bring news of the outside world and supplies. The solitude allowed you to spend many hours pondering the mysteries of creation. For ability scores, the Hermit gets Constitution, Wisdom, Charisma. The feat they get is Healer. The skill proficiencies they get are Medicine and Religion. Tool proficiencies are Herbalism Kit. Equipment, choose A or B. A is Quarterstaff, Herbalism Kit, Bedroll, Book on Philosophy. Lamp, Oil, 3 flasks, Traveler's Clothes, and 16 gold pieces. Or B, 50 gold pieces. Hermit would be a really decent cleric option. You could also be a druid, a ranger. You could potentially do a monk as well. Give your boost to Constitution and Wisdom. Um, you could also do a hermit sorcerer or warlock as well. Put your boosts into Charisma and Constitution. And the healer feat is pretty decent in my opinion. So yeah, you got a few options here for the hermit, which are pretty neat. So overall, pretty good background option. The merchant. The merchant says you were apprenticed to a trader, caravan master, or shopkeeper, learning the fundamentals of commerce. You traveled broadly, and you earned a living by buying and selling the raw materials artisans need to practice their craft, or finished works from such crafters. You might have transported goods from one place to another by ship, wagon, or caravan, or brought them from traveling traders and sold them in your own shop. For ability scores, the merchant gets Constitution, Intelligence, Charisma. The feat they get is Lucky, which is pretty nice. Skill proficiencies, Animal Handling, and Persuasion. Tool proficiency, Navigator's Tools. The equipment, choose A or B. A is Navigator's Tools, 2 pouches, Traveler's Clothes, 22 gold pieces, or B, 50 gold pieces. Merchant would be really good as a sorcerer, a warlock with the Constitution and Charisma increases. You could also do a pretty good Paladin with Constitution and Charisma increases. I also didn't consider that for Hermit. Hermit would be good for Paladin with Constitution and Charisma. You could also, with Constitution and Intelligence, you could do a Wizard there. You could also potentially do a fighter with Constitution and Intelligence increases, specifically if you're going Battle Master or Psy Warrior. Those would be decent. You could also, yeah, there are quite a few options here, and the Lucky feat is pretty decent, giving yourself advantage on D20 tests with the Lucky feat, and then disadvantage. You could impose disadvantage on an enemy's attack roll against you, which is pretty good as well. Good options there. Alright, but that is the merchant background. Okay, the next background we're looking at here is Noble. Noble says you were raised in a castle surrounded by wealth, power, and privilege. Your family of minor aristocrats ensured that you received a first-class education, some of which you appreciated and some of which you resented. Your time in the castle, especially the many hours you spent observing your family at court, also taught you a great deal about leadership. For ability scores, the noble gets strength, intelligence, and charisma. For feats, they get skilled. Skill proficiencies are history and persuasion. Tool proficiency, one kind of gaming set. Equipment, choose A or B. A is a gaming set, the same as above. Fine clothes, perfume, and 29 gold pieces. Or B, 50 gold pieces. For noble, I could see you choosing a paladin for the strength and charisma increases. You could also potentially go wizard and take intelligence and charisma increases. You could go fighter for strength and intelligence increases. You could potentially go as a barbarian just for the strength increase. Pretty interesting option there. You could also go warlock for that charisma increase. There's some varied options for this one. So yeah, you got quite a few options there, which are pretty interesting. I think the most interesting option would be the barbarian noble. That could be pretty cool. But yeah, got some interesting options there. For the sage background, Sage says you spent your formative years traveling between manors and monasteries, performing various odd jobs and services in exchange for access to their libraries. You whiled away many a long evening studying books and scrolls, learning the lore of the multiverse, even the rudiments of magic, and your mind yearns for more. For ability scores, the Sage gets Constitution, Intelligence, and Wisdom. Really decent. Feat, you get Magic, Initiate, Wizard. Some very good options from there. Skill proficiencies, Arcana, and History. Tool proficiency, Calligrapher supplies. Makes sense. Equipment, we get to choose A or B. A is a quarterstaff, calligrapher supplies, a book on history, 8 sheets of parchment, a robe, and 8 gold pieces. Or B, 50 gold pieces. So for Sage, I would say some decent options here are going to be Druid with Constitution and Wisdom. Of course, Wizard with Constitution and Intelligence. Or you could even put one in all three. Or Intelligence and Wisdom as your increases there for Wizard. You can't go wrong there. You could potentially play a Sage Monk and put your increases in Constitution and Wisdom. That could be interesting. You could go a Ranger and put your increases in Constitution and Wisdom. Now you could even go Fighter and put your increases in Constitution and Intelligence. Oh wait, I forgot that Eldritch Knight was an option. So Eldritch Knight would be pretty good for Noble or Merchant. And also Sage here, especially with the extra spells you would get from Magic Initiate. So that could be a pretty good option there. You could also potentially go an Arcane Trickster Rogue and put your increases in Con and Intelligence there. That could be some interesting option there. Yeah, so you got pretty decent options as a Sage. Sailor. So the sailor says you lived as a seafarer, wind at your back and decks swaying beneath your feet. You perched on bar stools in more ports of call than you can remember, faced mighty storms, and swapped stories with folk who live beneath the waves. For ability scores, the sailor gets strength, dexterity, and wisdom. The feat they get is Tavern Brawler. Skill proficiencies, acrobatics, and perception. Tool proficiency, navigator's tools. Equipment, you choose A or B. A is going to be dagger. Navigator's tools, rope, traveler's clothes, and 20 gold pieces. And then B is 50 gold pieces. Sailor would make an amazing monk. You could also potentially here go Druid. You could go Ranger if you wanted to. You could even go Fighter or Barbarian. There's quite a few options, but I think the best option for Sailor here is going to be the Monk. And the only reason I say that is because Tavern Brawler now lets you reroll ones with unarmed strikes. So that's pretty decent. Yeah. So yeah, Sailor is going to be a pretty interesting background to choose. The Scribe. Scribe says you spent formative years in a scriptorum, a monastery dedicated to the preservation of knowledge, or a government agency where you learned to write with a clear hand and produce finely written texts. Perhaps you scribed government documents or copied tomes of literature. You might have some skill as a writer of poetry, narrative, or scholarly research. Above all, you have a careful attention to detail, helping you avoid introducing mistakes to the documents you copy and create. For the scribe, the ability scores that they get are dexterity, intelligence, and wisdom. The feat is skilled. skill proficiencies, investigation and perception. Tool proficiency, calligrapher's supplies. Equipment, choose A or B. A is calligrapher's supplies, fine clothes, lamp, oil, 3 flasks, parchment, 12 sheets, 23 gold pieces, or B, 50 gold pieces. Right off the bat, Scribe would make a good wizard as well. You could also potentially play a druid or a ranger scribe. Could be decent. You could do a rogue scribe with the dexterity and intelligence increases. Some interesting options there for sure. You could also play a dexterity-based fighter scribe. Could be interesting. All right. The soldier background. It says you began trading for war as soon as you reached adulthood and carry precious few memories of life before you took up arms. Battle is in your blood. Sometimes you catch yourself reflexively performing the basic fighting exercises you learned first. Eventually, you put that training to use on the battlefield, protecting the realm by waging war. Ability scores. Soldier gets strength, dexterity, constitution. Feat is savage attacker. Skill proficiencies, athletics, intimidation. Tool proficiency, choose one kind of gaming set. Equipment, choose A or B. A is spear, short bow, 20 arrows. Gaming set, the one for your tool proficiency. Healer's kit, quiver, I almost said quiver. Tools, or traveler's clothes, 14 gold pieces, or B, 50 gold pieces. Some good options here, based on the ability scores, would be Barbarian, for any of those increases. Fighter would also be really decent here. Ranger could be a good soldier. You could even go Monk as a soldier for the dexterity and con boosts. Paladin would be decent here. You go Strength and Con. Really any martial would benefit from Strength and Con. Could also go You could also go Rogue with Dexterity and Con increases. Yes, you got some options here. Fighter is really a martial background. So yeah, just Strength, Dexterity, and Constitution. You're going to be able to apply that to any martial class, or work for any of them really. And then the final background that we're going to take a look at is Wayfarer. We did go over this a little bit in the last video, but here's the full spread for it here. Wayfarer says, you grew up on the streets surrounded by similarly ill-fated cast-offs, a few of them friends and a few of them rivals. You slept where you could and did odd jobs for food. At times, when the hunger became unbearable, you resorted to theft. Still, you never lost your pride and never abandoned hope. Fate is not yet finished with you. As you can see here, Wayfarer is a reworking of the Urchin background in a way, so it shares some similarities with that. But the Wayfarer, the ability scores they get are Dexterity, Wisdom, and Charisma. The feat they get is Lucky, Skill proficiencies, Insight, and Stealth. Tool proficiency, Thieves' Tools. Equipment, choose A or B. A is 2 daggers, Thieves' Tools, Gaming Set, any. Bedroll, 2 pouches, Traveler's Clothes, 16 gold pieces, or B, 50 gold pieces. So Wayfarer would be a decent rogue. Could be a decent monk as well with dexterity and wisdom increases. Decent ranger with dexterity and wisdom. You could even go a druid Wayfarer for the dexterity and wisdom. You could go a sorcerer with dexterity and charisma increases, or warlock with the dexterity and wisdom, or dexterity and charisma increases. So you actually got quite a few options with the Wayfarer that would be good for, and Lucky is a pretty versatile feat. But that is all 16 backgrounds. So thank you all for watching. Please let me know in the comments which background is your favorite and which one you want to play first is. Let me know what you like or dislike about backgrounds. I'm personally iffy on the ability score increases being tied to backgrounds. I agree that they didn't belong in species, but I don't know if they're really any better in backgrounds here. And I dislike that there's specific ability scores tied to each background. I feel like it keeps you locked in to choosing only specific backgrounds for your class, which kind of sucks. But I'm really interested to see what the options are for customizing backgrounds in the DMG when that comes out. And I'm also going to release a video on backgrounds that did or I'm also going to release a video for some custom backgrounds that I have ideas for. Some of them are ones from the Unearthed Arcana that didn't get released, and I think one or two are ones that I've made up myself based on just what the rules seem to be here. But look out for that Origin Feats video this later this week. And if you enjoyed, please feel free to like and subscribe. I've currently reached 50 subscribers, so that's awesome, and I'm very excited about that. I'm going to continue building my channel, and I appreciate all the love and support that you guys are giving me. So I'll catch you all in the next video, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. See you later.